How do you grow like a VC-backed company without taking on investors? Do you want to create a lifestyle business, a performance business, or an empire? How do you scale to an exit without losing your freedom? Those are the questions, and this show is the answer.
But we have Ryan Staley with us today, who is the founder and CEO of Whale Boss, where he helps tech founders grow from about 1 million to 30 million plus through the principles that he's used to achieve those same results personally. He's taught over 800 CROs and VPs and leaders his proprietary enterprise sales frameworks. And we're going to get into that a little bit here for those listening on the show. Ryan, thanks for joining, man.
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to see both of you again. I think last time we spoke live, it was at the GTM event in Nashville, right? Yeah. So that was a fortnight ago. So happy to be back in the mix with both you guys.
AI is all the rage. It's certainly taking over. And I think we do hear a lot of, well, can't AI just do this? Or won't AI just do that? Where are you seeing AI work the best with your clients? And conversely, where are you saying not for AI?
Yeah. Yeah. And let me define AI in terms of the lens that I'm looking at it through, because it went from being a specific term to now it's like, it's almost on like the productivity and efficiency level of how overused it is. Right. Yeah. So I think here's what I would say. Like what I look at it is effectively looking at it as, it's not a catch-all, but you could use it as a team of helpers for any individual department or organization, right? So a team of like really good entry-level interns that sometimes have brilliant, like insane brilliance in them that 20-year veterans have. So like that's kind of like the mindset you got to have. And then the other one that I always look at it is through the lens of like knowing what it is, knowing it's not. It's not a SaaS solution. SaaS solution does the same process repeatedly the same way all the time. AI tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, I mean, you name it, or Copilot, they're like a heart monitor. They'll do things amazingly well, and then they'll do things that you think they should be able to do that are just kind of mediocre, right? So if you have that understanding walking, you know what to expect. So that when I talk about AI, I'm talking about like skill transformation for individuals. And then the other side of AI is more like data integrating into a product, capabilities like that. So to answer your other question, where do people do it wrong is they think that AI and automation are the same thing, and they're not, right? Like AI is the customization and tapping into a, like, let's say for this use case, large language model, whereas automation is basically stringing together processes that have to be very precise. Otherwise the automation won't work. Right. So those are kind of the key differences. And I think most people just think AI and automation are the exact same thing. Now you can combine the two and get amazing results, but most people think they're the same thing and they're not.
Yeah, I think it's funny, right? Because what you said is so true. And the term AI is so overused right now. It's like, oh, we'll just do it with AI. Everything is just AI. So I think putting that lens on it is critical to help people understand like what does AI do and what is AI versus, how many do you hear? Oh, well, just go ask ChatGPT.
And
that's what
like you were saying,
Ryan, just go ask ChatGPT.
And like you were saying, Ryan, like there's an evolution happening right now, right? It's like, it's not going to fix everything, but like you take a lot of manual activities off of people. So there should be a thought process. Do I go hire somebody to go do the research, all the back end stuff that takes a lot of time? Or can I leverage I'm not going to say GPT, like, can I leverage AI? Because there's so many models out there and people are building custom stuff and there's like a whole process around it. Can I leverage technology at a macro level to actually start doing some of that work? So when you get clients coming to you on this AI skill transformation, I love the way you described that, like the AI skill transformation. Are they usually like just starting it? Have they played around with it? Have they, like, where are they in that journey? And how fast can you get them to a level of proficiency? Is it 6 months? Is it 3 months? Like, what does that look like in time frame perspective?
It's a good question. It's so funny. I was thinking about this the other day, and I have clients at all different levels. I have folks that like don't like they're proficient because I'll understand their proficiency level before I start working with them, and I have them self-rate it, and I give them a scale to do that. So I've had people that are at like 1.5 out of 5, with 1 being the lowest, right? I've had people that are 2.6, and I've had people that are 3.6, right? And this is like an average across teams. So, but here's what I'm finding is like, there's like, I literally spent over 1,000 hours using large language models. So like, that's like unique that can't be replicated because there's so much nuance to it. However, what I found across all those different groups is even the people that rated themselves really high, there's still a lot that they're not getting out of it yet, right? That's like how like interesting and beautiful this is to me is like even people that almost rate them as like a 4 out of 5 still have a ton that they could use it for that they're not, they could be game changing. And so that's what kind of like excites me about it.
Love that.
Ryan, what are some of the biggest challenges, or actually let me reword that. What are some of your biggest fears doing what you do, working with CROs, working with CEOs? What are some of your biggest fears when it comes to AI in the sales and tech space? What do we need to worry about?
Yeah, I would say it's more of a whole, man. I mean, like there's I don't know. There's going to be a lot of people that lose their jobs. Like I'm saying that right now, like and some of it's warranted, right? But you know, if you it's so funny. I can't remember the name. The guy's on Instagram, and was it Tom? I can't remember. I'll tell you guys what it is, but it's pretty comical. But the guy's like, he goes, automate me into oblivion. He's like, I can't wait to get replaced by something that never poops or pees or sleeps or eats or anything like that and can work 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year. Right. And so it's like, so that's like, if I'm looking at long-term, like I was just thinking about this today, but there's, if the government doesn't get their shit together, there's massive risk that could happen.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of scares me a lot, because you got these black box scenarios where even OpenAI doesn't know exactly how it works, and they're just trying to scale the shit out of what they're doing. And like, which I don't blame Sam Altman for doing it. He's done some brilliant things, but like eventually, it could turn into a runaway truck. And so it's like, I think there needs to be some kind of guardrails around that and really understand sometimes what they're getting into instead of just like scale at all costs. Right. So that's something that kind of scares me a little bit about the whole thing. And that's work as a whole. Cause think about it, man. Like, guys, what do you think is going to happen if like, let's just say on the small side, 30% of the population loses their job? Like, what do you think is going to happen? Right? Like, companies are going to be more profitable, but what's really going to happen? Now, imagine what happens if it's 50% or 60%, right? It's like, there's macroeconomic issues, there's rioting. There's a lot of weird shit that could happen that I can't even wrap my head around right now. I don't know if you guys have thought about that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think so. One of my biggest fears is like how many people are going to lose their jobs. And I agree with you, by the way, that a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. I was having this conversation with someone the other day about what skills they have that are not replaceable by AI. And what skills are replaceable. And I think I'm probably the most anti-regulation person out there. But when it comes to this, I think if the government doesn't step in and regulate, you're going to see significant wide-scale unemployment that is going to change the face of the country as we know it today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that scares the shit out of me.
100%.
Yeah.
And look I think, we're going to have, as much as you're going to lose jobs, we're gaining jobs. And so back to, like you said, you've spent 1,000 hours on this thing, right? Like that's part of the challenge is people think it's just going to, like, there's some easy button, like they're just going to hit a button and it's going to like generate stuff for them versus like And I think what's happening is it's evolving so quickly. People are just like, well, I'll wait for the next iteration. I'll wait for the next iteration. But all that learning you've done in the beginning, like, how do I prompt? What's the prompt engineering like? And like, how do you understand? It's really design thinking at its finest, because you got to think of all the things that you do. I liken it to when you wake up in the morning. If I ask you, like, what are the things that you do when you wake up in the morning before you go out the door? I guarantee you'll miss like 4 or 5 things because it's just automatic. And those are the types of nuances you need to be able to craft for the large language models, because they will fill in some of the gaps, but where the expertise is going to come in is taking the information from the large language models and executing on them, or refining them, or like making them the same, that part for their business. I think is where the subtle nuances lie. And so,
well, I agree with you, man. Like, so it's just like driving, like same thing, all the nuance that goes into driving, and you could basically like sleepwalk and drive like 2 miles, like, because you've been doing it for so long, because it's ingrained in your subconscious. But like I don't know, have you guys learned or dove into like autonomous agents a lot at all, or no?
We're just starting.
Yeah, but define what you mean by autonomous agents.
Yeah, so what I'm talking about, and here's like the best analogy that I could give, and I'm starting to create content about it because I think more folks mainstream need to understand this. And this is where like, and I wouldn't say it's just the automation or the loss of jobs that concerns me. It's more the like security of a system, like trying to optimize for something that isn't in the best nature of everybody. Right. And so like, if we're talking autonomous agents, the best example I could give is like Iron Man, right? So Tony Stark has a suit that's like insanely developed, and he has a AI specifically called Jarvis that he communicates with and tells it what to do. And basically all he does is identify the outcome, and then an 8-step process across multiple systems happens and creates that outcome. That's like basically what's an autonomous agent is, where you identify the outcome. And I'll put it in revenue terms. So let's say I want to create, like, let's say Jarvis, I want to create a top of funnel campaign that generates 8 appointments a month, specifically with CTOs of this level company at this side for a publicly traded company in this specific industry. And I want them to be 2 a week over the next month, right? An autonomous agent, what it'll do all the research. It'll identify the highest propensity to buy. It'll pull what your track record is previously. It'll string together the sequence, and it will also set that sequence up and then execute that sequence and then come back to you and give you the results of it, and then optimize it along the way. That's an autonomous agent, right? So that's the type of shit that's coming out later this year. I wouldn't say that exact workflow, but that's the stuff that OpenAI is probably going to release with GPT-5 in the next 3 months, where it's a dumbed down version of that, but that's what's coming. And so my point is, if you don't scale, or I should say you don't understand how to effectively even prompt, that's like the core foundational instructional level of those. So if you don't, what you're going to do is have an autonomous agent that scales shit. So it's the equivalent of sending like the most brutal email sequence out to like 3 million people, right? So that's kind of like where I'm going with some of this stuff.
Well, shit in and shit out, right? I mean, it's always been that way, right? So if you don't have a good solid process to begin with, then if you're just going to automate terrible stuff, like if you have a terrible process with terrible content and terrible writing, you're still going to get terrible content and terrible writing, and you're just going to, it's just going to get spammed out. And so you can't automate bad processes.
But we see that all the time. And we all know those emails that we get, right? Hi, Ryan. Hope you're doing well. Like you could still tell that it's AI because someone has not taken the time to put good information in, train the bot, or the autonomous agent correctly. And we're getting more bad crap in our email box. The amount of like LinkedIn comments, like I religiously go through all of my comments on every post, and you could tell the ones that are like such poorly executed shit AI. This is a wonderful idea. And like, no one fucking talks like this. Like it's asinine to me.
Yeah. So true, man. So true. That's like a whole episode we could do on LinkedIn comments, AI generated LinkedIn comments. But I think people would probably rather spend our time on elsewhere, but I agree with you, man.
I feel like, and we are coming up on time, I feel like we are just scratching the surface. I feel like we could arguably do a substantially longer show on AI autonomous agents, the impact that AI is going to have, how to properly use AI, how to not use AI, how to create a Dale bot. There's, I don't know if I was going to say, I don't know if I'm ready for a Dale bot. But I feel like there's so much that can be done. I'm super curious to see what happens with regulation over the next 12 to 18 months. Without bringing politics into it, I'm super curious to see what happens with regulation, depending on what happens with the election, and just overall where that's going to go. Ryan, thank you so much for joining. We will we will share your LinkedIn so people can find you. Any place else people can go check you out, find some information? Feel free to shamelessly plug any sites.
Man. If you are an audio nut, like you're listening to the Revenue Reimagined show, I have the Scale Up Show podcast. And if you want visual insights into like AI workflows, I started really focusing on YouTube about a couple months ago, and love what you could do on that visual platform with video.
Love it. Thanks, Ryan.
Love it. Ryan, thank you for joining us.
Guys.
We appreciate
awesome.
it, man.
Appreciate being on.
Thank you for checking out the Scale Up Show. My mission in life is to help founders and revenue leaders avoid all the pain and suffering in revenue and growth so they can flip it and create a life of their own design. So if you enjoyed this show, please like, review, share it on social, and more importantly, just share it with a friend. Share it with someone that you think could learn and benefit from what you heard on today. But the more we get the message out, the more people we could help, the bigger the impact we make, and the bigger the community gets, which helps everybody. So once again, thank you for being a loyal listener. I appreciate you and look forward to seeing you on the next episode.